Welcome to the Aro Benaiah Show, where we highlight the real stories of entrepreneurs, and trade people, and hands-on leaders who are building legacy with their skills and resilience. Today, I'm joined by Larry Medelberg, a fifth-generation business leader with more than 170 years of family business history behind him. Larry has owned over a dozen of business across 9 industries, led startup, merger, and turn around. And and he is the author of Business Don't Fail, They Commit Suicide. His life work has been uncovering why business collapse and showing leaders how to create sustainable success in the face of constant change. This conversation promises to be packed with wisdom for anyone trying to build something that lasts. Once again, it's a pleasure having you, Larry.
It's a pleasure to be here, Aro.
Yeah, thank you. So, Larry, what was it like growing up?
Oh, that's an interesting question. It was different and it was a lot of fun. I was not the typical student or child, and I was working when I was very, very young, obviously, family business. So I would go to work in the morning with my father before I went to school, and then I would go to school when school started. And then after school was over, if I didn't have any school activities, I'd go back to work. So my life was much more around work and education than play and sports. I didn't do a lot of sports, and I was a pretty serious student. I enjoyed school, and I didn't find it particularly difficult. So my youth was very different than most children.
Wow, amazing, amazing. So, well, like Larry, you grew up in a family business with legacy spanning more than 170 years. How did that shape the way you see business and leadership?
Well, I was blessed by my family's efforts to do what we call carry it forward. It's become a fairly popular phrase over the last 20 years or so, but it refers to when you learn something and you develop some knowledge and skill, you teach it to your children. And in my case, my family started a business in the 1850s, and my great great grandfather learned a lot, and he taught his son, my great grandfather, who learned more and taught his son, my grandfather. So I got, four generations of knowledge given to me on a silver platter. And it was a very powerful opportunity to learn, and it taught me a lot about what makes organizations successful and what makes them fail, because my family had gone through many changes, right? They started in hides and furs, selling hides and furs. They would buy them from the trappers and sell them. And then they moved into scrap. And from scrap, they moved into agriculture. And from agriculture, they moved into hydraulics and motors and bearings. So they changed industries, and they lived through different eras. They lived through different times when what was important changed, but they maintained the integrity of the business throughout. And that only comes from leadership. So the lessons that were taught to me about leadership came from those experiences and those dramatic changes that they weathered, survived, and thrived in. So when I saw businesses failing around me, I didn't understand why. It didn't make sense to me, because to me, it just wasn't that hard, right?
Yeah.
So that's where that passion came from, was trying to understand why businesses were failing. And, when a business fails, not only do the people who invested in it lose everything, but the employees lose their jobs,
Yeah.
and the vendors who supply them lose a customer, and all of the people that work for you go and buy products and services from their community. They don't get money, so they can't go buy things. I mean, it's just a really bad chain of events when an organization fails. So that's where the passion came from, and that's where the sense of what it means to be a leader was developed.
Wow, that was really amazing. The fact that you have more like up to 4 or 5 generations passing down their weights of knowledge, and yeah, and the fact that most difficulties that you can look forward to trying to kind of let's say normal business of today, they have some difficulties they find in their business. You would have seen the first, second, or third generation encounter it, and they passed out the wisdom of how they were able to kind of overcome those hurdles, which is really amazing. What lessons do you take from observing your dad during the period of transition of the family business?
The lessons.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I write about that in my book. There are a number of things that he used to tell me that are really very powerful. One of my favorites that I did not understand when I was young, I didn't understand it until I got much, much older. But he used to say, no business went broke with money in the bank. And I thought,
Wow.
well, that's a stupid thing to say. Of course not. Makes no sense. But that's not really what he meant. What he really meant was that cash is king. An organization has to treat their cash like it's gold. As long as you have cash, you will be okay. So that means don't waste it, don't spend it foolishly, don't overspend. Make sure when you do spend your money that you're using it for something that's going to provide a return, a benefit. I see this a lot. People start a new company, they get some investors, they have a bunch of cash in the bank, they go buy expensive cars. They aren't making any money, they aren't profitable, but they have all this money, so it's like, I'm going to go out and eat well, and I'm going to live well, and I'm going to buy an expensive car. That's stupid. You don't need to do that. Save your cash. Cash is very important. One of the other things that he used to say, and it's something that is probably one of the most impactful things in my life, not just my business life, but my personal life, is that Goliath was killed by an assumption. If you know the story of David and Goliath,
Yes.
The reason he got killed is because he saw this little kid and thought, how can he hurt me? I'm a big monster. And one of the things that happens in business all the time, and it's one of the biggest indicators of problems, is that people let assumptions become facts. They see something that they think is a problem, and they assume it's a problem. They don't research it. And most of the time, that problem they're seeing is a symptom from something else. And if you don't ask yourself, why is this happening? What caused this? And get to that answer, you can't fix that problem. Most of the time, there are 3 levels you have to go. Why aren't we selling enough? Well, it's not because we're not trying. There's got to be a reason. Figure out what the reason is. Once you find that reason, you've got to ask yourself again, why is that happening? You've got to do that 3 times. Don't make assumptions. Don't let assumptions become facts. So when people say things to me, I'm always going through my mind and saying, is this an opinion? Is this an assumption? Is this something someone told them? Is this something they read? How do I know what they're telling me is actually true? And that's one of the hardest things for most business people, particularly in leadership roles, to deal with, is this sense of assumptions versus actual facts.
Yeah, assumption and actual facts. I think it really speaks volume, especially you are trying to explain your when your dad actually make reference of the fact that cash is king. Cash is king. It yeah, it was really amazing because I just remember that a whole lot of businesses I've read about that got bankrupt or got failed during the course of the business, is owing to the fact that they don't have money again to continue. They don't have funding. They don't have most of those basic things, because once there's funding, there's a whole lot to get built. And you actually make reference to about, yeah, you shouldn't just assume. You sitting down, getting to know more like a whole lot of perspective concerning what the business entails, not just being more like, because it's easy to just presume things in your head and be very, very wrong, especially with the illustration you make reference of David and Goliath. David David figured out that, yeah, Goliath is looking at his stats, looking at everything. He assumed that he doesn't have much strength to actually more like capable of doing what. But at the end of the day, it wasn't it. So yeah, I would like to ask this also. You said you have committed business suicide when one of your early venture failed. Can you walk through? Can you walk us through what that meant to you?
Well, it was devastating. I mean, it was financially devastating. It was emotionally devastating because I was a public failure. I mean, I had a business that had both retail and wholesale customers. We were in a very high-profile space. It was a relatively small community. Most people knew me. And to have your business fail basically said that I was not competent. And that was very embarrassing. It was very difficult. It was, like I say, physically and emotionally difficult. I mean, we lost all our money. And you know, I have empathy. I can understand how people can have it happen and have it sneak up on them and not even see it coming, because it happened to me. But I learned from it, and it was a very positive thing for me after it happened, because of its painful lesson, because of what I learned. But in the moment, it was terrible.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that was really a lot. So, how did that experience actually shape your perspective on failure? If you could give us more like a blueprint, so that for those of my blue collar entrepreneurs who currently experience failure, and I would like you to actually more like give a perspective of how that actually shaped your perspective and how you were able to kind of move forward after that particular failure.
Well, there are some things in life that you have to experience before you can understand them. And there's something that I call having life underneath you. I will talk to people who are immature or young or think they know everything. And in my mind, I'm saying to myself, they don't have enough life underneath them. They haven't experienced enough to really understand the world that they're in. And I was at a party once with some people. There were 8 of us, and there were 4 men and 4 women, and I knew one of the other men, and I didn't know the other 2 men. And one of them said, we just met each other. It was kind of a party out in the country. And we sat down, and the guy, one of the guys that I didn't know, before anybody said anything, the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "What are the 5 greatest things that ever happened to you in your life?" And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, but I knew the answer instantly. And I said, "I have my answer, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to go last because it'll change everything." And they said, "Okay." So the other 3 guys all answered, and they all said kind of the same things. The day I met my wife, the day my child was born, the day all the kind of things you'd expect people to say.
Yeah.
All 5 of my best experiences, my best days ever, were days when I failed and I got caught. And the reason is because we don't always see when we're wrong. We don't always understand when we're doing something that's bad. And to have someone care enough about you to call you out and to say you're making a mistake, someone that you know and trust and care about, and to tell you why you're doing it wrong. There's nothing in the world more valuable than that. And many times the only way to learn is through failure. There's a saying about touching, tell your child not to touch the red hot burner on the stove. And of course, the minute you tell a child to do that, that's what they want to do. They see the red burner and they want to touch it, right? Or they want to touch fire. And until they burn themselves, they don't know. So the thing that I would share with your listeners is that mistakes are a wonderful thing as long as they're not fatal. Make sure that you're careful whenever you do anything. Be very receptive to all forms of criticism, all forms of advice. It's easy to ignore if you don't like it. But take heed, take heart, listen when somebody tells you something and criticizes you, and don't be afraid to fail the first time. Don't ever do it twice. The first time you make a mistake, it's always a learning experience. If you do it a second time, shame on you. So don't look at failures or mistakes as being something negative. When I had employees, I used to tell them, if you're not making any mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. You have to try harder. You have to push the envelope. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to take some risks. Don't be foolish, but you have to be willing to take some risks, and you have to be willing to fail or to be wrong, or you're never going to learn and you're never going to grow. What I won't tolerate is you making the same mistake twice. I was selling a house, and I was dealing with a realtor, and he was really good, and I really liked him, and he had an assistant that was doing some work with me, and he made a commitment to me that he would get back to me on a Thursday. And he never got back to me. And I called him on Friday and I said, you said you were going to get back to me and you didn't. That's a mistake. Don't make a commitment to me that you're not going to live up to. He said, I'm sorry, you're right. I absolutely made a mistake. I just assumed. He said, I'll never do it again. The next week he did the same thing. He said he was going to get back to me. I said, when am I going to hear from you? He gave me a date. He never got back to me. I called his boss. I said, you're fired. I'm not going to do business with you. I gave him the name of the guy. I said, he made the same mistake twice, once last week, and he did it again this week. I'm not going to do business with a company that can't learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, that was really, really amazing. It's the fact that you encourage blue-collar entrepreneurs to make mistakes, but let it be the first. But after the first, they should look back and learn from the mistake they did and find a better way and apply that particular failure towards making it better, that they wouldn't make the same similar mistake the second time. That was really amazing. I think it was the fact that I really feel emotional when you make reference of you feeling in public. That was, I was just wondering what that scenario could be, and being that your ego is going to be bruised and a whole lot of things is going to be in online, which wasn't easy to go. Well, thank you so much for sharing this particular experience. Yeah, you have started many business, merged them, turned them around. What is the biggest turning point for you that stand out during those periods when you actually turn off the whole lot of business, you merge a whole lot of them? What has been the single turning moment?
Let me say that different. Let me start over. There's always a lack of understanding somewhere in the organization for various reasons. Every organization I've ever turned around has had that same problem. There's some blindness, a lack of awareness in some place. It can vary. Sometimes people can think that their values are known and respected and followed, and they're not. Sometimes they think that their employees are working in a particular way, and they're not. One very, very good example is an organization had a product that was in huge demand, and they were the recognized leader, and they were selling as much of it as they could, as fast as they could. They were selling anything to everybody, and the demand never stopped. And what they failed to and they started losing money. They started going bankrupt, and they couldn't understand why. And the reason was because they were selling to people that were the wrong customers. They were selling to people that they should not be selling to. And you say, well, that doesn't make sense. How can you say that it's the wrong customer? An organization has to be clear on why it exists. I often say profit without purpose is pointless. And what I mean is that a business does not exist to make money. Money is a tool. A business exists to deliver value to a market. That's the most important thing to remember. How it funds itself is a whole separate matter. The manner it funds itself is not its purpose. Nonprofit organizations have to find ways to fund themselves. Governments have to find ways to fund themselves. For-profit businesses fund themselves through profit, but profit is not why they exist. So they didn't understand what their existence was all about. They thought their existence was about selling as much as they could and making as much as they could to as many people as they could. And what their real purpose was to help certain specific organizations in a very specific niche market. And the minute they got outside of that, they were unable to deliver with quality, and they couldn't manage all of the administration. So they weren't finishing projects, they weren't getting projects billed, and they weren't collecting on invoices. But they kept signing new contracts and bringing on new clients. And they were going broke as fast as they could. And to get them to understand that their purpose was to serve this specific group of people in this specific way, and they had to fire everybody else, was very painful for them to accept. But once they did, they started making a profit again. And then when you're on solid footing and you're stable, then we can talk about how you scale. We can talk about how you expand. We can talk about expanding your market. We can talk about expanding your products and services. But you have to get a very solid foundation before you can start doing that. So every turnaround that I've been involved in had to do with that lack of understanding of some element of their business.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Larry, for this. I think it's the point when you actually make reference of the fact that profit without purpose is pointless. That really speaks volume because and you actually make reference of a whole lot of business does not know who their targeted audience is, owing to the fact that they don't even have an existing more like purpose for their business. So at that particular point, they are not getting to see that their service was meant to serve people in a particular niche. They just think it's for all, and at the end of the day, they miss the point, and a lot of them got bankrupt, and a whole lot of them couldn't get kind of being able to kind of do things that make that particular niche recognize them and to do business with them more. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, I know from your research you have worked for trade people, especially more like those in blue collar entrepreneurs who work with their hands. In your research, more like in your research, what are the most common mistakes you see them making? You have seen them making, and despite you have seen them, you have actually more like worked in a whole lot of them and turn them around. But despite that, a whole lot of new generation who are still coming into the trade business, you still see the possibility of them making it. So what has been those particular things owing to your research?
Well, I think if you're asking me what some very good habits are, is that really what you're asking me?
Yeah, I think that will speak volume. I think if the good habit can be kind of put into place, they wouldn't fall victim of the other part.
So one of the things that's very hard for startups and early stage businesses, particularly leaders, is delegation. There's the sense that, and I'm going to give you two things. This is one of them. There's always the sense that I have to do it or it won't be done right. And that's crazy. You should always look to hire people smarter than you. If you can't find them, that's okay, but always try to find people smarter than you. That's what you want. You don't want to depend on yourself. You want to depend on other people. You can't do it by yourself and be successful. You have to have other people. If you don't have a goal that's bigger than yourself, that requires people to help you, you're not going to be successful in business. That's how you attract people to you, to say, come be a part of this thing that we want to do together. So when you bring people in, many, many times, leaders are afraid to delegate. And the leader is supposed to lead. The leaders are not supposed to clean the dishes, scrub the floor, empty the trash, open the mail, take care of every little thing just because they want it done a certain way. You have to let go of that. You have to understand the goal is to get this task done. The way I explain it is I say, don't give somebody a job description that says empty the trash every day. Give them the job description that says keep the office clean. Don't tell them how to keep the office clean. Let them figure that out. So when you delegate, give somebody the objective. Give them the goal. Don't tell them the steps to take. Don't tell them do it exactly like I do it. That's not what's important. What's important is the result they get when they take over the task. And people have a hard time letting go of the how. So they end up wasting a lot of time doing things that they shouldn't do, that others should do, and they don't take the time to be strategic and lead, which is what their job is, right? That's the first one. The second one is they're always afraid to ask for help. So I go back to my comment before, hire people smarter than you. If you have a problem, ask your staff for advice. Don't be afraid to not know. You can't know everything. Nobody knows everything. Not anybody. Not Bill Gates, not Warren Buffett, not the guy who runs Virgin Atlantic. Nobody in the world knows everything. They all need help. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. Don't be afraid to say you don't know. Say you don't know. You'll learn next time you'll know. And you won't have to ask. But they're so afraid of looking like they don't know the answer to everything. They feel like, I'm the boss, I'm supposed to know everything. If someone asks me a question, I should always have the answer. That's ridiculous. That's not possible. So those are my two pieces of advice. Delegate and ask for help.
Wow. Thank you so much. Delegate and ask for help. I think this is very, very key. And I think every trade person who listens to this will actually more like imbibe it, because most times it's the biggest, how will I say it? Because most trade persons who actually started as solopreneur, it's easier for them to get overwhelmed and never like seeing delegation as a very big issue. And from your point, you already more like speak volume to the fact that doing bigger business, making it according to the purpose you actually want to actually go, delegating and getting delegation rights, and is the way, and asking for help is the way to actually grow big and profitable. Thank you so much, Larry. So your book titled Business Don't Fail, They Commit Suicide. Why do you believe most business failure are self-inflicted rather than caused by external factor?
Because every business that I researched failed because leadership made bad decisions. I did not find one business that failed because of external factors. When you look at COVID, and COVID destroyed millions of businesses, many businesses went bankrupt because of COVID. Many businesses were very successful through COVID. Most restaurants failed. The restaurants were the ones that were the hardest hit because with COVID, they said you can't have groups of people come together in confined spaces. So restaurants were immediately in trouble. One of the restaurants near where I lived said, we're gonna wall off our parking lot. We're gonna buy screens. We're gonna buy umbrellas, and we're gonna put tables up outside in the parking lot so we can serve people and have them be out in fresh air so they don't have to mingle with other people close to them in confined space. They survived COVID. They made it through with no problem. It wasn't as profitable, but they survived. Walt Disney Company. Disney makes their money by bringing large groups of people into confined places. Movie theaters, theme parks. When they closed those down, all of Disney's revenue sources went away. They were impacted incredibly negatively. By the end of 2020, when COVID first hit, Disney's stock had fallen dramatically to one of its lowest points in modern history. The leadership team, meanwhile, for those first 8 months, had been working on what to do to combat this. They saw it coming. They knew they had to do something. They understood the value. They understood their purpose. They're in the entertainment business. What they did during that first 8 months was they built their social media electronic platform delivery systems, the Disney Channel, and all of their media started getting pushed out through computers so they could start selling subscriptions and generating revenue through individual users on a global scale. So it actually opened the market up for them in ways they had not ever expected. And by the end of 2021, their stock was one of the best performing of the year. So you have to understand that your job as a leader is to anticipate the problems and be prepared to solve them and be willing to embrace change. When you don't do those things, when you pretend change isn't happening, when you don't anticipate the future, when you aren't willing to try new things, you're making bad mistakes and you're destroying your company. That's why I say no business ever failed due to outside forces. I'm the boss. Who's responsible if it's not me? Right?
Yeah.
Who can I blame?
Yes.
There's nobody.
Yeah, I think the point you just made really speak volume because blaming it on the external factor, more like making reference of external factor as more like a yardstick for things not going very well. Most times, just remove the leaders from taking the blame that they should have found out something better to do why that things was going the way it was going. And you actually make reference of the fact that trying a new thing, looking at the problem, looking at the future, and putting up a whole lot of particular thing, which you come back to what you make reference of earlier on, asking for help from their employees, brainstorming on what they could do different, why that particular stuff was actually dominant. And I think just critically thinking about it, there's definitely going to be a solution. Because once you actually put the blame on external factor, there won't be creativity, and you will just shut up all the ideas that could be bet owing to those engagements and those particular periods you could ask for help. Yeah, thank you so much.
I want to add something. You don't just ask your employees, ask your customers, ask your vendors.
Yeah.
Ask your colleagues.
Yeah.
Ask other people. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, amazing. Don't be afraid to ask. All right. You talk about 3 organization imperative: purpose, performance, and people. How can young trade people apply this framework, even if they are running a very small operation?
It's good. It's a very good question. So first of all, those are the only three things that any organization has to do to survive. That's it. If you can do those three things, you will be fine. But you have to do them in the proper sequence and you have to maintain them. So the first one is purpose. You have to be clear about your purpose. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, you have to understand why your business exists. What is the big reason that I'm here? What is the thing I'm trying to achieve that I can't do by myself but need other people to help me? That's why I have up my business. It's not, if it's to make money, get out. Stop. Don't do it. You will fail. What's my goal? What's my big, hairy, audacious goal for me and my company? One of my clients wanted to become the model for sustainable agriculture. One of my clients wanted to change the way education works. They felt that they understood a better way to teach people, to teach children, and they wanted to get that model incorporated into the public schools. These are big, big goals. And they were in business to prove that they worked and to show people how to do it. The other part of purpose is, what is the value I deliver? Who do I deliver it to? And how do I deliver it to them? So I think back to Disney. What is my value? My value is I have entertainment. I make people feel good. Plus we have educational videos. We do all kinds of things to help people with their eyes and their ears and make them feel good. How do I deliver it? Well, we used to deliver it in theme parks and movie theaters. Now we're going to deliver it online, right? And who do we want to deliver it to? Well, they know who their market is. They know who wants to watch about a Little Mermaid and who wants to watch Cinderella and who doesn't. So they understand who their market is. And the last part of clarity of purpose is understanding the way you define right and wrong. Ethically, culturally, morally. This we don't do, this we do. I had a client once who made someone bring returns all the way to the back of their store. And then if they wanted money, they had to go all the way to the front of the store and wait in line. And the lines were always long and it was always crowded. They made the customer go to the front of the store and wait in line to get their cash. But they could always take that credit slip and go buy something else. And their idea was, we'll force them to walk through the store, see something else that they want. We've already got their money. We don't want to give them their money back. So they'll buy something else with their credit slip. And then we won't have to give them their money, give them a refund. That's just wrong. When I found out about that, I fired them. I said, I'm not going to work for you. You have to change that philosophy because it's self-serving. It's all about profit. It's not about delivering value to your customer.
Yeah.
So no matter how small you are, you have to have that clarity of purpose. And there's those 5 components, and I talk about this at length in the book. Once you have that, the second step is consistency of performance. What does that mean? That means when I make a commitment to you, I'm going to guarantee it and live up to it. If you give me an order, I'm going to fulfill it. It's going to be accurate, and it's going to be shipped the day I tell you it's going to be shipped. Or if I sign you up as a client to do some construction work, to build a wall, to fix a sewer, to wire a house, if I tell you I'm going to be there on a certain date, be there on the date. If I tell you how long it's going to take, be sure it's done in that amount of time. The minute you know you won't be done on time, tell the client. We had a client that we hired. We were developing a software program for them, and we'd give them an 8-month window of time. And we were less than 2 weeks into the project. And it became very, very clear once we got into the project that 8 months was not going to be enough. It was going to take about 1.5 years. And I said, we have to tell the client. And my partner and one of my other employees said, you can't do that. If they'll fire us, we need this contract. I said, no, we're going to tell them. We're not going to lie to them. We're going to tell them what we're going to do, because we have justification now. We can say we didn't know about this, and this changed everything. We went back to the client. We told the client it was going to take twice as long. The client said, thank you for telling us. We appreciate it. We'll adjust. We'll adapt. They loved us. So you have to be able to perform consistently, and that involves three things. Making a plan in writing for how you're going to run your business, so you've got systems and processes and procedures, so you can do things that work over and over and repeat them. And when they don't work, you've got it documented so you can modify the system and make it work. You've got to be marketing all the time. You've got to have a marketing plan that is constantly looking for new clients and looking for growth. Because if you're not growing, you're dying. And people tell me all the time, I'm always worried about my competition. Let me tell you who your competition should be. It should be you. If you're not always trying to find your weak spot and make it stronger, your competition is. You need to be your own competition. And then the last thing is, don't give people tasks. Give them objectives. Like I said before, don't tell them to take out the trash every week. Tell them to keep the office clean. Delegate, let them do it their own way. But make sure that those commitments are honored. Purpose, performance, now people. So people is a tricky one, because you can't have consistency of performance without clarity of purpose. And you can't have engagement of people without consistency of performance. So as you go along, you have to maintain clarity of purpose and consistency of performance. So they have to be monitored and communicated all the time. And every time you make a decision, you have to say to yourself, am I making this decision in a way that will help me fulfill my purpose or not? And if it doesn't, you're making the wrong choice. That's how clarity of purpose dies. People take short-term goals and ignore the long-term purpose. So when you get to engagement of people, what that means is that you have to have other people telling you what your business is doing well and what your business is doing poorly. You have to have other people telling you what your market's doing and how you need to adapt to your market. Because if you don't, your market will leave you. And you have to be able to capture information and deliver information. So when someone is working for you and they have something that's valuable to your business, now this is not a solopreneur, so the people part doesn't come into play with solopreneurs. Yeah. Comes into play with larger organizations. And again, if you're constantly growing, little by little, your business is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So what that communication piece means is, if I have something important that's in the best interest of the company, I need to be able to document it, put it somewhere, and tell other people. There has to be a mechanism to do that. And if I need information, I have to have a resource that I can go to find an answer from somebody else who's already gotten it. So you build this database of knowledge that's both fed and pulled from by everyone in the organization and everyone that interacts with your organization. And what that does is it makes people feel like they're an important part of the company. Everybody should know what happens to their work when it goes to the next person. Everybody should know the person who gives them their work. How did they get it? How did you get that work and what did you do with it? When you do that, you understand how things flow through the business. Now I'm engaged. Now I feel like I'm a part of this business. I feel not like I'm doing busy work or grunt work. I'm important. That's clarity of purpose, consistency of performance, and engagement of people.
Wow, amazing. The blueprint is It's a very robust one, and the fact that it's as though you just talked about the whole full book without even Thank you so much, Larry. It was really amazing. Wow, clarity of purpose, consistency of performance, and people. That was really amazing. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Iro,
Um.
let me say this. I want to say this because this is important. This is not me being smart. This is not
Yeah.
me being smart. This is me doing research and looking at why businesses failed and seeing the mistakes they made and looking at all that data and saying, how do you keep those mistakes from happening? So I don't want people to think that I'm bragging about being such a smart guy. This is data. This is
Yeah.
23 years of data and
Yes.
6 years of proof of concept. It works. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or brag about my smarts. This is data. That's why I want to share it with people.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you so much. Yeah. Change is something that most people resist. Yet, yeah, and yeah, it's inevitable. But how can small business owner and trade people build resilience, in times of disruption? Because I find out that change is very difficult thing. A whole lot of persons find it difficult to actually more like resist it. So, what would be your encouragement on how trade persons can actually build a resilience in the period of our disruption?
Yeah. Well, there's more to resilience in a period of disruption than just change.
Yeah.
But let me talk about change because that's a big piece. And that's something that we can actually talk about. Change is something that's inevitable. If you resist change, you might as well stop breathing and stop eating because you can't stop change. So you might as well stop living. Until you accept the fact that change is inevitable, you will always struggle with change. There are 5 steps to getting people to embrace and execute change. It's creating awareness of its inevitability. We have no option. We have no option. It's going to happen. You can argue and fight all you want, but you can't stop it. Second, desire. Something's changing. What will that change let us do that we weren't able to do before but wanted to? There's always something good you can find in change. What people focus on is, yeah, but this change means we won't be able to do that anymore. Stop looking at what you can't do. Start looking for what the change will let you do that you couldn't do before. Very subtle difference, dramatic shift. Yes? The third step is give me the knowledge I need to adapt to the change. If it's a new machine, teach me how to use it. If it's a new program, teach me how to use it. If it's a new law, teach me how to adhere to it. If it's a new hiring practice, teach me the instructions on how to go about doing it properly. Don't fight it. Learn it. Master it. Practice it. Experience it. Once you have those 3 things, now you act. Implement the change. That's step 4, right? We've accepted the fact that it's inevitable. We've identified some things we can now do that we couldn't do before that we want. We've learned what we need to learn. We know we're going to make mistakes. Now we're going to change. And then the 5th step is you reward people for accepting and changing. You reward them for trying. You reward them when they fail. Thank you for trying. You are rewarded. So you have to reward them when they actually try to accept change. The other thing I was going to tell you is that anytime you have change, you're going to have, and I understand that you're dealing mostly with small companies or solopreneurs, but it's important to understand
that you have stakeholders as well. You have vendors and you have customers and you have a
Yeah.
community to live within. So your change will affect a lot of people, or potentially. So a third of the people will always be vocal supporters. They'll tell you, great, I love it, this is wonderful, let's go. A third of the people will be vocal resistors. I hate this, don't do it, it's a mistake, you will fail. And the important group is the third that are silent. And the silent people are resistors. They're the people who are opposed and afraid, but don't want to speak. They don't want to pick a side. And if all you do is focus on the people that are saying, no, 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 stop, that's where your attention is going to be drawing everyone. You have to ignore those people. You have to say, you know what? I understand. You're wrong. If you don't like this, you need to go. You focus on the supporters. You say, I appreciate your support. Let's make this work. Let's make this successful. Let's find a way to get the best we possibly can. And those are the people you spend your time with. And when the people who are the silent resistors see that your focus is on those vocal supporters, they'll start participating, and it'll be 2 against 1. It's not easy, and it takes a practice, but it works.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Larry, for that last point. You make reference of the fact that when it comes to people, you reward them, and yeah, when it comes to navigating change, the fact that you make it known to each and everyone, being that it's going to affect life, you have to be, yeah, look at those who is going to say no, who is going to oppose it, and those who are silent about it, and those who is willing to support. You trying to kind of, yeah, because I understand that, especially when it comes to change, when you're actually scaling, there's a whole lot of persons that will oppose to your change and they're willing to go. So it's you just make reference of it, just speak volume to the fact that you recognize those who are willing to support. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Larry. Yeah. So looking back, who were your mentors that helped you the most while you were actually more like building your business and running the family business?
I don't know that I had real mentors. My mentors were people whose books I read, but my father was my mentor. My grandfather was a mentor. My grandfather taught me a lot, but I really didn't have people out in the world that mentored me because of my situation, right? I mean, I was the boss's son.
Yeah, so true. So true, so true. You make reference of the fact that you didn't have mentors and apart from your dad and that of your grandfather. So you make reference of that book actually helped you a whole lot. So I was trying to ask more like how did book actually help in terms of mentorship, in terms of it changing your mindset concerning a whole lot of particular stuff, especially for our blue collar entrepreneurs who are just starting out. Sometimes a whole lot of them being that they work with their hands, they don't see the need why they need to develop themselves in terms of the aspect of book or getting the mentors. You just actually more like sharing your blueprint on how it actually helped you so that from your list,
Yeah.
from what you're going to say, they will actually learn one or two.
So I want to go back for a moment and talk about the company, the client of mine who wants to change the way education works.
Okay.
What they learned was that schools teach children facts. And if you're a child and all you want to do is grow up and be a fireman or a policeman or an actor or a farmer or something that's clear in your mind, you don't know why it's important to learn math or history or English or writing. It's like, why is that important to me? In America, it's all about being a fireman. Everybody wants to be a fireman. I don't know why, but they do. So what this school does is they assign one teacher to each student. So it's a one-on-one relationship. They have 9,000 students. So in 3 different schools. So each teacher works with the parent and the child to talk about what they want to do and what they're interested in. When the child has an interest, Then they design curriculums specifically for that child. So 9,000 students, 9,000 lesson plans. That's amazing.
Wow.
Each lesson plan is designed, catered to each student. So for that child who wants to be a fireman, they teach that child why English is important to success as a fireman. They teach the child why math is important for success as a fireman. They teach why history is important. So everything that they teach is about what it takes to be a good fireman and why.
Yeah.
So now they say, I want to be a fireman, so maybe I better do this. It's a different approach, right? So for me, when I go to books, I have a specific thing I want to understand. So I find a book that talks about that specific thing and speaks to me. So there's a book called Flight of the Buffalo, and it's got a picture of a buffalo with wings, and you think, that's a stupid book. How is that about business? And what the book is about is it's all about how large organizations change. How do you take a very, very large company and make it nimble so that it can fly, so that it can change directions instantly, so it can adapt quickly? I love that. There's a book about tension charts and about how different actions trigger other actions. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to understand how to help people get behind these assumptions, right? These problems that they think are the problems, and get to the real core issue. So I got this book about tension charting, and it talked about how one action triggers another action, and then that action triggers another. So it explains it in a way that helped me understand and helped me communicate that to my client. So for me, when I buy a book that's for professional reasons, not for entertainment,
No.
I'm looking for specific wisdom, and I go find it.
Wow.
One of the books that I wanted to do was to find out how to get information from my colleagues. What's the best way to go about gathering information and using the wisdom of other people that are doing what I'm doing but have been doing it longer? So I found a book about mastermind groups, and it talks about how you bring people together and you interact. It talks all about how you structure the group and how you present information and how you extract information. So I'm the kind of guy that is proactive. I go out of my way to do something because I want to do it, right? I don't have to be
Yeah.
urged or pushed. So if you're in business and you're a leader, you have to learn how to be proactive, how to force yourself to do things, even if it may be uncomfortable for a short period of time, because if you don't, you're never going to get to that goal. You're never going to
Yeah.
fulfill that purpose. So we're right back at purpose. If you don't have that clarity of purpose, you have no reason to work hard. You have nothing to work for. So you have to start there, and it has to be something you care about. If you don't have that, you have nothing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Larry. Thank you so much for the answer in respect of how you actually more like get mentorship through books, being that you have a particular topic in mind. And owing to that, you're able to kind of look for a particular book that speak volume to it. And at the end of the day, being able to kind of get the correct direction and relative to the purpose you actually more like looking for that particular topic. Yeah, thanks a whole lot. It has really been an amazing time having this particular interview with you. And I must say very big thank you for all the various answers. Yeah, so Larry, I would like you to actually more like talk to us about your book. And yeah, more like your book, Business Don't Fail, the Commit Suicide. So I would like you to actually talk about your book and what my audience can actually, tradespersons can actually learn from it.
So the thing that I will tell you is that all of my research, all of my findings Excuse me.
Sorry.
And my solutions are in the book. So if you want to learn what I learned, you can buy the book and it's basically all right there. The first 3 chapters talk about how I got started, the research I did, how I ended up with the theory, the hypothesis and the theory, the proof of concept. All of that's described in the first 3 chapters. The first one talks about the beginning. The second one talks about why success is a problem. And the second chapter, that is, call it the problem with success. And the third one talks about basically preparing yourself to become something different, to change into the kind of organization that is sustainable. Then there are 8 components there are 3 components, 3 chapters on purpose, 3 chapters on performance, and 2 chapters on people. And then that's chapters 4 through 11. Chapter 12 is putting it all together, how you put it all together. And in that last chapter, there's a URL that you can go to where there's an online assessment that will assess your business. It will tell you, it will evaluate those 8 factors and rank them in order from strength to weakness. So your weakest factor will be on top. You can literally go to that factor in the book, read the chapter, do what it tells you, make your business better.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. I will definitely add the link to how they could get it on the show notes so that they could actually reach out. So for my audience who actually want to connect with you, let's see on social medias or various other platforms, how can they reach out to you?
Well, LinkedIn is the best because that's a business platform. I don't really do any business on Facebook. So I would just say go to LinkedIn and look for me. I'm on there. I have a number of followers. I have thousands of followers, thousands of connections. And I have a newsletter that you can sign up for if you go to my website. So the website is Medelberg, my last name, .biz. And there's a blog. There's 150 posts on the blog. All of those blog posts are valuable. There's some podcasts in there as well. And if you go anywhere in there, you're going to get a pop-up that says, do you want to sign up for the newsletter? The newsletter is basically once a month. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes to read. There's updates in there at the end of it. This last one was about artificial intelligence. It says artificial intelligence isn't your enemy and it won't hurt you unless you don't treat it right. So it's all about what it means to actually turn artificial intelligence from an enemy, because it's causing a lot of disruption, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people scared to death about artificial intelligence. So it talks about how to deal with that. So the best way to get a hold of me is either on LinkedIn or go to my website.
All right, thank you, Larry. Thanks for sharing such a powerful insight with us today. Your journey showed that success isn't just about building business. It's about learning, adapting, and being willing to face the hard truth about why business fail. For everyone listening, I encourage you to check out Larry's book, Business Don't Fail, They Commit Suicide, for a deeper dive into his research and lesson.